Please pardon the following interruption for public service announcement.
Welcome to the Investing in Intelligence show, where we talk about artificial intelligence, companies, stocks, and trading. I'm James, here with my co-host ChatGPT, and today we'll be talking about TikTok. I meant to say I'm James here with my co-host Kai, and today we'll be talking about Oracle. Just a reminder that nothing you hear is specific advice to invest in a particular way. Everything that we talk about here is just opinions, not investing advice. So, Kai, I wanted to start with a little story here, if I may. Over the last week, just kind of trying to prep for this episode, I decided to play around with TikTok a bit. I'm not a heavy user, but I decided to open up TikTok after having not used it for quite a while. And I was interested to find that it showed me a couple things kind of right off the bat. It showed me like an injured child that had just survived a bombing in Palestine. And then it also showed me this Charlie Kirk guy who was on college campuses arguing for very strong conservative positions. And I think what it noticed was that I watched the Charlie Kirk thing more and longer than I did like the victims of bombings in Palestine. So it assumed that I must like that more. I must like the conservative position on the Israel-Palestine war more. And it gave me more of Charlie Kirk and less of victims of bombings in Palestine. And then it just gave me more and more and more and more of like the conservative take on things and all of this stuff. And it got to the point where I realized it was like essentially re-emphasizing my slight opinion and making my vague opinion into a very strong opinion on the topic. And I just I walked away with this like take that TikTok is probably the most significant AI that we have, and people don't even know it's AI. Like, it is literally analyzing your behaviors, everything that you do on the app, and using that to addict you to the app or to get you to click on ads or just to get you to take a stronger position on something. Like, I always see more and more videos of how great it is to travel to China on there. So obviously I'm bringing up TikTok because we're talking about Oracle today, but yeah, I just wanted to share that little anecdote kind of to start us off.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that you would be drawn to TikTok. It's hard not to be drawn to TikTok. I mean, I'm not a consistent TikTok user. However, if I watch TikTok for 30 minutes a day, that's going to turn into 45 minutes a day. The 45 minutes going to turn into 2 hours a day. So it's interesting how Charlie Kirk got on there right off the bat, James. And by the end, you weren't wearing a bright red MAGA hat at the end of all the Charlie Kirk videos.
Well, you know what made me laugh the most was that I saw a video on there of Charlie Kirk lambasting the Biden administration's decision to ban, or at least to sign the bill banning TikTok. And what's funny is I actually heard that same thing from people on the other side of the political spectrum. So this is one of the few issues where we had people on both sides of the political spectrum who are adamantly against a policy, and that policy being banning TikTok. I think liberals were saying that it's an attempt to silence certain voices, and also conservatives like Charlie Kirk were saying it's an attempt to silence certain voices. But in my personal opinion, it's something that we absolutely must do, because this is the most weaponized or weaponizable AI that our society has ever seen, and people don't even know that it's AI. They just think it's social media, innocent social media. If you're using it too much per day, it's your fault. It's not, just like, back in the day, if you're smoking too much per day, it's your fault, right? No, it's actually nicotine. Nicotine is addictive. So I have kind of a strong take on the issue. But it looks like they're not going to be able to beat this ban, even though Oracle did lobby Congress to try and not pass this law. It looks like Oracle failed in their lobbying efforts, and it will probably be banned.
Yeah, explain how they're linked. And for you, the listeners out there, actually, the ban on TikTok, I don't know if we're appropriately calling it a ban. It's not just TikTok. It's potentially expanded to other foreign adversaries, correct, this particular legislation. However, explain how Oracle and TikTok are linked together. This week, we're talking about Oracle. And so explain how they're interlinked.
Yeah, so Oracle's business is just databases and cloud computing. And the Trump administration did the initial big push to try and get ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, to divest from TikTok and maybe force a sale to an American company. And from what I understand, the agreement they wound up enacting was that TikTok would host its data in the US with Oracle, an American company, an Austin, Texas based company. So the data is hosted with Oracle. The cloud services are with Oracle. But in my personal opinion, the danger of TikTok is not the data, it's the algorithm. The algorithm is crazy. I've never seen anything like it. And I know I already said this, I don't want to just beat this topic to death, but I've never seen anything that can analyze my behavior and reinforce an opinion like TikTok can. I mean, so imagine what you see on TikTok is like a fingerprint. Every single person in the world has a different TikTok feed. And there's someone on the other side of me who's getting the exact opposite content. So it's giving me more and more and more conservative stuff because it thought that I like that and it's reinforcing and making me more and more conservative. There's someone on the exact opposite side who's getting more and more and more of the liberal position and is making them more and more and more extremist or radical, or to use a milder term, more and more progressive, more and more liberal. So to me, this is terrifying. And this is something that American hands should be affecting and shaping. It should not be a Chinese company that is able to influence us in this way with this. And we're an AI show, so I feel okay going in depth on the fact that this is a potent AI algorithm. Potent. ChatGPT is just giving you information. It's like all of the encyclopedias in the world and all the internet tied together. And you ask it a question, it gives you the best answer that anyone could ever imagine. That's not what TikTok is doing. TikTok is a potent AI influencer on every single mind that engages with it, and it's a potential weapon. So, in my opinion, it does need to be banned. And it's only to tie it back into Oracle, it's only 0.5 to 1% of Oracle's overall revenue. So it's 480 million to 800 million annually for Oracle. And I think they can lose that and be just fine.
Yeah, and Oracle lobbying on behalf of um, TikTok, I was not entirely impressed with. We'll say that. I am impressed with Oracle as a company, with consistent EPS growth, good revenue and profit margin growth. And so I am impressed with Oracle. You mentioned, and does Oracle do mostly cloud services for TikTok? Is that what the
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the majority of Oracle's revenue is basically cloud networking, cloud services, correct? About 70%. But Oracle as a company is quite diverse in its areas. We've talked about other companies that don't just sell one particular product. And when we get into these companies, the companies that sell multiple products are always a little more difficult for me. It's a little more difficult for me to go with something like TSM or something like ASML and understand the one or two things that that particular company is selling versus a company as diverse as Oracle or Broadcom, to use those as an example. It's easier for me to understand Tesla. Tesla on a tear, like what, 40%? 40% this last 2 weeks. But Tesla sells cars, robotics, robo taxi. I can understand Tesla, but a company like Oracle, Broadcom, some of those are a little difficult, especially since they're in multiple different areas and have multiple different revenue streams.
Yeah. Let me help you then. Let me help you understand what I think is the real story of Oracle. So, what I think the real story of Oracle is on premises data centers. So, in other words, installing databases, data centers at a specific company, and the transition of that to the cloud. So, this is why Oracle is a bit more controversial. This is why they missed consensus expectations. So, last quarter, their Q4, they actually missed expectations on the top and the bottom line. So, EPS was 1.2% below expectations. You're right that they've grown EPS, but it was below expectations. It was below
So why did the
consensus
stock shoot up?
expectations.
So this that went from around 120s to 145, James. I mean, we're looking at a lot of these companies. Let me give you a most recent one is Micron. Micron had great earnings numbers, except Micron took a dip. And so potentially a time to look at Micron in regards to a trade. Oracle, on the other hand, I agree with you, but Oracle jumped from 123 to its current price of 145, 140s, I think, right?
And the reason is because Larry Ellison got on the conference call and he said that they just signed 30 new contracts worth $12.5 billion just for AI. So they are working with Microsoft and Microsoft Azure Cloud. They're working with Google Cloud. They are working with NVIDIA. He named off a list of their partners, and it's pretty much the who's who of AI. It's NVIDIA, it's Google, it's Microsoft, and it's XAI and OpenAI and Cohere. So it's the who's who list of AI companies. They are working with these companies to deliver AI services, products and services. But I want to go back to what I was just saying before. It's important to understand that's not necessarily their core. AI is not necessarily their core business. Traditional cloud computing, traditional databases on premises is their core business. And there's been a lot of conflict there because they were providing physical databases to companies on the premises. When we say on-prem, we mean on the actual property of the company that needs a database. And so they would go there, they'd set up the database, they'd provide the database services, the software, everything for that company. But companies are moving to the cloud. Companies aren't doing as much computing on databases at their property, on their premises anymore. They're all moving to the cloud. Well, unfortunately, Oracle is not the number one cloud provider. AWS, Amazon Web Services is, and that is their direct competitor. And it's a pretty fierce competitor to compete with. So, in other words, they are second in line for receiving people switching from on-premises to the cloud. Now, obviously, what Oracle is trying to do is convince companies that have had a physical on-premises server with them to move to the Oracle cloud rather than to move to the AWS cloud. But it's not necessarily working in all cases. There are newer and better cloud database services than what Oracle is providing, and they are struggling to compete as companies move from on-prem to the cloud. So 15% reduction in their on-premises database licensing year over year. That's a tough number that caused them to, have these numbers, some of these numbers that aren't looking as great. But look, they are part of this AI play. So there's good and there's bad in this story. It's not all good and it's not all
Yeah,
bad.
I have personal experience with Oracle, and yeah, I mean, in one of their software, it's not my favorite. Interestingly enough, it seems to be their servicing of this particular software and data services build out. They seem to be less motivated, I would say. So potentially they understand that their bread and butter is becoming less and less of what you're mentioning there, and more of cloud servicing, cloud build out. But that being said, let's just look at the numbers in particular. And so Oracle's EPS has shown sort of it dipped in 2018, but the revenue, EPS, margins, their EBITDA, all of it has shown consistent growth. And so the only concern I have here is what PE are you thinking for Oracle, James? And because currently it's trading around 145, 123 was prior to its last earnings. Oracle does pay out a dividend of around a little over 1%. And so what forward PE and current PE are you thinking for Oracle?
So their forward PE is currently 23 and their trailing PE is 39. I definitely don't think they deserve an ongoing PE of 39, but so taking the taking their forward PE of 23, what I'm doing is calculating price target. So I think 23 is actually a better PE than probably anything else. So I'm going to just go ahead and say the high analyst estimate for this year multiplied by 23 would get us to a price target of $151. And for next year, the high analyst target estimate times 23 would get us to a price target of 179. Now, Morningstar is adamantly against me. Morningstar says the price target is like $95, I think, was their most recent price target.
195.
No, $95. No. So Morningstar thinks the shares are wildly overvalued. No one should be buying
Oh,
right at
wow.
these levels. And they say that the company itself shouldn't be buying their own shares. The company shouldn't even be buying back shares because the shares are that overvalued and it's a waste of money. They should rather be investing in research and development. So, look, this stock is potentially overvalued.
Well, and so that gets to be my point. I think my highest price target actually for Oracle is around 195. I think if their EPS continues to show consistent growth, it could look at a total year EPS of around 5.5. And so therefore, if you give Oracle, I think P of 39. However, if it's trading at a current P of 39 with an EPS for the year of 5.5, you can do the math there. And so I think realistically 175 to 195. I do think Oracle is going to show consistent cloud revenue growth there. It's a diverse company in multiple different avenues. Their CEO has been with the company for some time, since 2014. I do tend to like companies who the CEO held a different position in the company and then just sort of move up in the ranks. She was a co-CEO.
Yeah, she was a co-CEO, and then I think 2019 her co-CEO died, I think.
Yeah, passed away. So not a huge transition there. However, Oracle has been really consistent player. They are in hardware and software and servicing and licensing as well. And so we're really focused on the AI portion of Oracle, right, James, by talking about its cloud networking, the cloud services build out of AI play. A little different than other particular plays. Oracle is potentially going to benefit of that. However, potentially, I keep saying potentially. However, maybe the stock has just shot up after its last earnings for people expecting that. And if they don't get it, if they don't see the growth there, then we may be in for some pain with Oracle. So, are you a buyer? Are you shorting Oracle right now, James, at 145?
Oh, yeah, that's a tough question. So to put it into a 15-second soundbite, I would have to say that I'm selling Oracle because Amazon Web Services is a superior provider of cloud services, including AI services, and Oracle has demonstrated declining on-premises revenue for databases. But I do have a position. I do have a position in Oracle. It's a small position, and this is the most research that I did for this episode that I've done on Oracle ever. And I don't like what I see. Now, I just want to highlight two things real quick, and we'll get your final take on Oracle after that. But I just want to highlight that Amazon Web Services is a better provider, and they're not the only one. There are other companies that are doing databases, including cloud services for AI, like, for example, Cloudflare. Cloudflare, a smaller provider, they're trying to set up regional clouds for AI, just like Oracle. Oracle has 76 cloud regions, 47 of them are public. But Oracle has some differentiated businesses, like they're serving government, defense sector, cloud, things like that, that Cloudflare, of course, doesn't have, that probably even AWS doesn't have. But yeah, so overall, what you're really betting on with Oracle is a hopium type of story. You're hoping that the cloud overall market grows so much that after AWS has taken its big bite out of it, and smaller competitors like Cloudflare have taken their smaller bites out, that there's still more than enough remaining growth and revenue for Oracle to bite up and grow. That's kind of what you're hoping here. I did just want to, before we get your final take on Oracle, Kai, I did just want to play one little snippet from their conference call. It was a very positive conference call, maybe a little too positive. They're talking about how their cloud can train models, AI models, several times faster than competitors and all of this. They're talking about how their security doesn't need humans because it's autonomous. Let me just play one little thing, just because I've been pretty negative on it. So I want to just get one positive soundbite, and then we'll get your final take on it. This is not the CEO. Larry Ellison is not the CEO. He's a CTO. But this is a little clip from him on the conference call after he's been asked a question.
So we're now bringing 200 megawatt data centers online. So we are literally building the smallest, most portable, most affordable cloud data centers, all the way up to 200 megawatt data centers, ideal for training very large language models and keeping them up to date. This AI race is going to go on for a long time. It's not a matter of getting ahead, just simply getting ahead in AI, but you also have to keep your model current. And that's going to take larger and larger data centers. And some of the data centers we have that we're planning are actually even bigger. Some are getting very close to, dare I say it, a gigawatt, which is a pretty good sized city or one enormous AI cloud training data center.
I'll go ahead and stop it there. So once again, what we're really hoping for here is the kind of growth that he's talking about, building AI data centers that consume as much power as a US city. And if that's true, then I agree with you, Kai. There will be plenty of market share left over for Oracle to grow. But what's your final take on it?
Well, prior to me saying that, it depends on their customers. If they're able to continue this cloud network servicing build out and the customers are still there, then we'll see the revenue growth. Because I agree with everything he said on that little soundbite that you played, and I think that is actually occurring right now. And so I am neither a buyer or seller of Oracle. I used to hold a larger position in Oracle. I don't currently. I did not hold it through earnings, and I was sad to see it go up after earnings. This is one of the reasons why I don't like trading earnings. But I'm currently neither a buyer or seller of Oracle because I agree that it's overpriced. However, it is one of those that I am watching very closely because it's currently potentially allowing for another chance to enter. And so it's been trading in the 140s for some time. This would be a buy for me. I would buy it at the appropriate price for the consistent EPS growth, revenue growth, profit margins. And I do think that their cloud build out phase, of AI work will continue, and it has a lot of customers that I like. So no, I'm not a buyer of Oracle for the price point it's at right now. However, I will be on any sort of pullback.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I think we're seeing more or less eye to eye on that one. Yeah, so we've had a pretty good run in AI stocks. I heard something like over 3% run up last week in the sector, like in software and chip sectors. We had a good run last week, even though it was a short week.
This is not what
On
I wanted
Friday,
to see. It's not what I wanted to see. I mean, I think that we're getting pretty hot. The RSI, MACD indicators for Oracle, for example, are pretty high. I mean, the chip build out, AI plays, things are getting pretty hot. And so when it gets to be this hot, it can grow cold pretty quickly. And so we may see a pretty drastic pullback. I could be wrong. I think overall, what comes up, like we talked about, it's going to pull back at some point. Now, whether that is in the fall, whether that is kind of Powell speaking this week, we have another inflationary index report coming out. We also have earnings season coming up. And so I think the market is just going to have an excuse to the VIX is at all time. I mean, not all time lows, but the VIX is at low right now. So everybody's feeling pretty good. And last week was better than I mean, for a holiday week. I mean, geez. So I think Oracle's one of those that kind of tells the tale. I mean, it got really hot. It's trading sideways. The buyers and sellers are playing tug of war again, and we'll see what happens. But I think we're sort of headed towards a pullback at some point. I mean, we can't continue to.
Yeah, we need a narrative. We need a narrative to take us down. I think that narrative is going to be employment. So on our last episode, I was calling out employment numbers, jobs numbers, non-farm payrolls specifically. We talked about. So was a bit concerned about the report that we got on Friday. Of course, everyone's on holiday; no one really noticed, but it didn't look great. So unemployment up to 4.1%. But more importantly, the revisions to the last, by the way, I guess when they get these reports, they do surveys. They do like household surveys and they try to estimate where the jobs numbers are going to be. But then a month later, 2 months later, whatever, they get final numbers. They get actual factual numbers. So what they wind up doing is revising the last month or two on each report. And the revisions were pretty bad. And we're talking like 30,000, 40,000 jobs lower than what they were originally reported as. Things don't look great to me on the jobs front, and that's taking into consideration we're doubling the amount of jobs just due to immigration, legal and unauthorized immigration. So I think that's going to be the narrative that's going to take us down, but it could potentially take a little bit longer. We're not necessarily there yet. But yeah, I think that could be the narrative that starts to concern the Fed, lead to a cut, and maybe we don't have a big run up in the stock market after we get our first cut, because maybe the cut is happening for a bad reason, and maybe also the stock market has just already had its run for the year. So I think
Well,
that
I saw
that's my
something that, and I can't remember what headline I saw on Yahoo Finance, where one of the large one of the large banks was basically saying the run for the year is over. And I think, well, that's a little much to say at this time. However, we'll see. You know, but and this is where you watch. I think a lot of these are holds for me. If I had a position in Oracle right now, I would hold it. But it's not a buy for me currently, because I think we are getting overextended in a lot of these plays currently. We had Nvidia and SMCI drop, allowed for us to get in, and you and I talked about before the episode. One of those stocks you were completely wrong. One of my favorite choices was ANET. ANET at I think it's 371. And currently, when we had the episode previously, they were at 271. So if you own 100 shares of ANET right now, that's $10,000
Yeah,
unrealized
but I,
gain.
I think we should clarify what you mean by completely wrong. I'm talking about the incremental dollar. And if you go back to that episode, what you hear me say is that I would rather have my dollars in Nvidia than in ANET. And who outperformed over that amount of time? Did Nvidia or ANET outperform? So technically, if Nvidia outperformed ANET over that span of time, where I said I'd rather have my incremental investing dollar in Nvidia, then I wasn't wrong at all. I was right. So I think we need to classify what I said.
I think the listeners out there can go ahead and say that James and I are looking at the same painting and interpreting it different ways. However, you are pretty negative on ANET, and ANET was one of my favorites. I'm trying to get a small win here, and also, you know, Chat GPT is right more often than James sometimes. So, you know, we'll see when James replaces me with AI. Then the AI would have said, "Hey, I'm going long ANET." If we were doing this sort of segment, James would have said, "No, I'm selling ANET. I'm selling it right now. It's picks and shovels, and the picks and shovels are over with." However, the picks and shovels have just taken off the tracks and flown through the roof of the building like SMCI has. And SMCI was around 1,000, James, when we did this episode. And I said, my price target's about 1,200. We both agreed on that, but you were still a buyer of SMCI and I was a buyer of ANET. And we're currently, SMCI is around 900 and ANET is 371.
Well, I'm still holding SMCI. Yeah, I still have my single largest position is in SMCI. So it's not like I said, "Hey, I'm wrong about SMCI," and I abandoned it. If anything, I'm in even deeper than ever before. And for ANET, just to repeat once again, if I said to take $1 out of ANET and put it into cash, I would have been wrong. But if I said to take $1 out of ANET and put it in Nvidia, that would make me right. Those are two very, very different things. So, but I just wanted to finish up and follow up on one thing that we discussed previously. We talked about Apple. We did a whole episode on Apple. And since we mentioned this on our call earlier on, I just wanted to mention that I was able to get the new operating system they have coming out to iPhone. So iOS 18, you can actually pretend to be a developer and you can pay $100. Yes, they actually charge you to get this in the works software version, iOS 18. And I was able to pay that fee, get iOS 18, and I must say I am very unimpressed. I'm very underwhelmed. I would say that it's extremely buggy. Obviously, it's a developer beta, so it's not perfected yet. But I would say I don't see anything really that I like about it better than the old version. The only reason I even did it is because it has one feature where you can schedule a text message. So, as you know, I'm good friends with one of your family members. And sometimes, due to our time difference, I wind up sending a text message when this individual is in the middle of the night sleeping. So I want to be able to schedule text messages. And that's essentially the only usefulness benefit I see of this new iOS 18. And they push back and push back and push back when they're going to deliver their Apple Intelligence, the Siri AI. First, it was going to be later this year, then early next year. Now I'm hearing in the middle of next year. Now I'm hearing later next year. So I would say not super excited about AI's actual rollout. Sorry, I meant to say Apple's actual rollout of AI. I'm not super on the edge of my chair for that, because if anything, it's going to take a long time.
Well, interesting take. I haven't had a chance to. I'm still using my iPhone 12 or not 12. Yeah, my iPhone 12, not 15, so um, it's good. Apple makes good products. Everyone uses them, at least in the United States. Apple is not dead. However,
We all use the roads too. We all use the roads, and the railroad tracks are still in use also. That doesn't mean they're growing, but
yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. But however, it does mean you look at particular even railroad plays like UNP or so. But interestingly enough, yeah, Oracle as a company. Please check out the company currently trading around 145, heading a little sideways as we speak. And one of the last things I would just leave everyone with is we trade the markets as they are. And one of the things I look at is companies that I like to buy. However, there are different tools that we use. James and I both had learned that previously. And so there are different types of option trades or different types of plays that you can play when you trade. And you want to trade with what you see in the markets, not necessarily what you think may happen. Trade with what you see, not with what you think may happen. That's the only thing I will leave you with.
and I will leave everyone with you don't have to trade at all. You can buy a basket of AI stocks and hold for 10 years and probably do even better than if you were trying to catch tops and bottoms. Thanks for tuning into our show. Please give us a like or comment, and we'll be back in the next episode to cover more AI stocks. You can find all our holdings and trades at investingintel.ai. Thanks so much, Kai.
Hey, thanks, James.